Facade installation. The assembly begins with cutting and installation of finishing trims. Before the assembly, we drill the bottom parts of the trims in order to facilitate their installation. In order to ensure proper ventilation, the distance from the ground surface should be kept. The panels and trims should be installed at the distance of at least 15 centimeters. The installation begins with the bottom parts of the two-piece vertical trims. Mount the FS211 starter trim between the vertical trims. The level of the FS211 starter trim is determined using a piece of the panel and a spirit level. At the top of the wall, we install the FS262 ventilation trim. Between the vertical and horizontal trims, we should keep the expansion joints of about 2 centimeters. Both the starter trim and the ventilation trim should be carefully leveled. In external and internal corners, we use the same trim, the FS222 universal corner, which speeds up the installation and reduces the amount of waste. The trims should be firmly attached to the substructure. We start the assembly of panels from the bottom by placing the panel on the starter trim. The panel does not require leveling, just make sure that it is properly seated on the starting trim and the expansion joints have been maintained. Once seated, the panel adheres rigidly to the load-bearing structure, which makes it easy to fix the panel. When cutting the panels to the desired length, remember to take into account the expansion joint in the battens and the ambient temperature. The expansion joint depends on the length of the panel and changes together with the ambient temperature. The panels are fixed using the inox screws. The screws should always be fixed in the middle of the mounting hole and they should not be tightened. This allows for the panel to expand and contract depending on the changing ambient temperature. When using a nailing gun, test and adjust the nailing force to the hardness of the wood used in the structure. Each next panel is mounted in the same way. After being fixed on the locks, the panels do not require leveling and no additional help is needed when installing them. The locks of the panels ensure a tight, impermeable facade surface. Usually, the last panel needs to be cut. Measure the necessary height of the panel. Take the measurement from the trim to the top edge of the penultimate panel. The panel should be fixed on the edge so that the head of the screw holds the cut edge. The panel should be fixed on the edge so that the head of the screw holds the cut edge. If it is necessary to obtain a uniform surface with the remaining panels, we use washers on the entire length of the panel. The remains of the panels work well. Do not drive the screw through the panel because it will prevent the panel from working under the influence of temperature. After installing the last panel, all you have to do is attach the top layer of the finishing trims. The trims should be attached using a rubber hammer or a wooden batten. After the finishing trims have been attached, the facade is ready. It does not require any additional finishing work or silicone insulation.